Hello everyone, this is Tim. It is Monday, June the 20th, and I am still on my road trip slash vacation, I suppose, slash journey to get my car wrapped appointment this week. Anyway, woke up this morning in San Francisco and went and had breakfast at a cafe that happened to be located in a residential area. Ended up having to park about 2 blocks away from the place to find a spot. So while walking through the neighborhood, I encountered a man who I thought was a resident, but it turns out he was a building contractor that was doing some work on one of the houses. Since my background is in construction and home renovations, we got into a conversation about what work is like in San Francisco, working on some of these houses. And in particular, one of the things that he brought up, which I figured would be an issue, was getting siding made for the round turrets on several of the houses. Siding is not generally formed semicircular, it's flat. So that's something that has to be custom made. And he was explaining to me the process and the company that he works with to have things like that done. So it was very interesting conversation. But anyway, left San Francisco and continued up the coast. And it seems like the more farther north I get, the more intriguing the dynamics of the ocean are. It seems like there's more activity with waves crashing in the rocks and the coastline and stuff like that. And plus also you go up in elevation quite a bit, and there's lots of winding roads, mountainous roads. As you start getting up north, the trees start getting really big, and it's pretty spectacular. And so now I am in a town called Eureka. And when I first, saw the name of that, there's a Tesla supercharger here, which is why I'm staying here for the night. And it's relatively close to the redwood forest, which I plan on spending much of the day at tomorrow. But the first thing I thought was a brand of vacuum cleaner. And I'm like, well, that sucks. Of course, that's what vacuum cleaners are supposed to do. But actually, there's something more significant regarding the term Eureka that is behind why I'm making this video. You know, when people have an experience in life where they get something, the light comes on. Some people call it an aha moment. Sometimes people say, Eureka, like, I get it all of a sudden. And one of those moments for me happened not today, but recently enough. As I said in yesterday's video, I had lunch with a friend who goes by the name of Hex Monkey on Twitter and Telegram. And one of the other things that we had talked about, other than the Grateful Dead, was the fact that both of us recently met somebody. And we were talking about that. And he told me some of the background of how he met this girl that he is presently talking to. And I proceeded to tell him what happened in regard to me. And essentially, her and I met at a social function, and at first it was just hello and goodbye. but then we met again on 2 other occasions. And then the 4th time we met, we actually spoke for an hour, and we both concluded that we had a mutual desire to get to know each other a little better. So that resulted in us sending texts and emails back and forth for about a week. And we arrived at the conclusion that we're both on the same page regarding how relationships should function, and that we're now moving forward together from that page. And Hex Monkey had asked me if I minded sharing with him what that looked like. And I said, I don't mind at all. I'd be glad to tell you. And basically what I had said was that there's essentially 3 types of relationships. The first are acquaintances, where you have 2 people who are aware of each other's existence, and ideally that awareness is cordial. It isn't always that way. But once people acknowledge one another, there's an opportunity for them to develop a friendship, which is a second kind of relationship. That kind of relationship is based on knowledge that people have of one another as a result of just communicating with each other. And then once people get to know one another, that may carry with it the potential for people to have more than just talking with each other. And usually when people say that they're in a relationship with someone, that usually means they're doing more than just talking. So those are essentially the 3 kinds of relationships. And I went on to share with him that one of the things I've learned in regard to all that is that one of the reasons so many relationships and marriages fail is because they're not based on the knowledge that people have of one another. They're based on assumptions. People, instead of being transparent and open with the other person, giving them knowledge of who they are, instead they pretend and they tell the other person what they think that person wants to hear. And that charade can't last forever. I'm sure if you talk to somebody like Kyler Kaufman, he would tell you that actors can only keep up the role for so long before the real person comes out. So, unfortunately, the reason people tend to do that is because they're motivated by fear. They're afraid of how the other person is going to respond if they know who I really am. So they're not honest. They just play a role. And yeah, it's very likely that if someone knows who you really are, they're not going to like you. But that's part of the cost that is involved if you want to be involved in something that is substantial and genuinely beneficial. And, you know, even if somebody doesn't like you, that doesn't mean their heart can't change. You know, that's where communication comes in. So, these are some of the things that we continued to talk about that made our conversation that much more satisfying. It's nice to be able to sit down with someone you consider one of your peers and be able to open up about these things. It makes it easier for you to talk about them publicly, which is why I'm making this video, so that other people that may be watching this might be able to derive some kind of benefit from the things that I've learned. But there's more to it than just that. And this is something else that came out during the course of our conversation that I shared. And that is that when love enters the equation. And one of the things that I have learned, and this has been a very painful experience, but necessary, and that has to do with the notion of falling in love with somebody. What I've learned is that it is not appropriate for a man to enter upon the principle of love by way of falling. It's like falling off a ladder or falling down a flight of stairs. It ends up a very painful experience because men were not designed to fall in love. Women were designed to fall in love with men. And the reason for that is women were designed to represent the emotional dynamic of the human experience. That's why women tend to be more emotional than men. They're designed to be that way. Men are designed to be more principled. And so this is why men ought to enter into love from a position of principle rather than from emotion. The emotional stuff can come later. But what happens is that when a woman falls for a guy, what usually happens is the guy recognizes that and he tends to exploit her emotions rather than catch her. It's like if a guy recognizes a woman is falling for him, what he ought to do is catch her while she's falling so that she does not get hurt as a result of falling. And it was revealed to me that this is the significance of the symbolism that you may have seen in movies or TV shows or something where people get married and they show the groom carrying the bride to like a hotel room or a honeymoon suite or something. He's carrying her to that area and he carries her in there. It's because she fell for him, he caught her, and now he's carrying her to their destination. But that can only happen if a man is motivated by love. Unfortunately, human beings, men and women, are naturally motivated by fear. And when a man is motivated by fear and he notices a woman is falling for him, he needs to capitalize on that while he has the chance, because he's afraid that if he doesn't take his chance now, some other guy's going to step in and get her at his expense. And the Eureka moment that happened for me came with the realization that when you have the truth and your character of manhood is built on what is true versus on what is popular or what is socially acceptable, there is no competition, because the truth is the final authority in all things. Therefore, you can't do anything to supersede it. You can only agree with it. And when you agree with it, then that unleashes the authority of that within your being. If you resist the truth, well, then all that does is the friction of that resistance just grinds you to powder. So this is why it's been said that you shall know the truth and the truth shall make you free, because freedom is a state of being whose quality is directly proportional to one's knowledge of what is true. So, when you have a knowledge of the truth and you're successful, because you recognize the value of Hex T-shares from day one and got yourself a very large bag of them. It's like there is no competition, folks. You know, it's like greatness has its limits. Richard has talked about this. You know, food can only taste so good. You know, sex can only feel so good. You know, life has its limits. So, here I am in Eureka, California, and it's just getting better as each day goes by. I hope it is for you too. Until then, I think I'm going to call it a night. It's been a very revealing day. So, have a good night. See ya.